What would you say you do here? That's right. The two Bobs floated around the NFL, and there were some layoffs, there were some cuts, and we got to go over them. It's the coaching carousel in the National Football League, and that means it's Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom on the Audible. Talking some news and notes, Bloom, but going over the coaching carousel. Now, most of the time when we do this show, it's when everybody's been hired.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not happening yet. We're waiting, and we may be waiting a little bit longer, but we'll obviously bring you that show too when teams get hired and hire their new head coach, hire their new executives, all those sorts of things. But we got to jump into this list, and it's a list that, well, Bloom, it's about the same every year,
Yeah.
right? 6 to 8 teams are looking for a new head coach, and that sounds about right.
Yeah, there are teams. I mean, we have teams that it's been a long time coming, like Atlanta or Houston. We have teams that seem to perpetually be here. I mean, you could have said Detroit, a long time coming. There were hires that were never good to begin with. Detroit,
Right.
Jets. You have
Houston.
Houston, yeah. You have just what were they thinking? What has been going on in the organization overall, as far as Jacksonville, and then the Chargers, which is kind of sad, only because Anthony Lynn is a kind of coach and person that can be a very important member of a very good, successful organization. Just not head coach, not right now, not until he gets a crash course in game management. But you can go up, you can go down. I mean, that's the thing, Cease. Like these hires, sometimes, like Kevin Stefanski, they get a second chance and they go back and get the guy that their analytics told them to take, and look where they are at now. But then sometimes these hirings, like whenever the Jets went and got a failed coach out of their own division, can just show you these teams are going to stay on the same dead end track.
Well, you want to talk real, Bloom?
Yeah.
You want to talk real?
Oh yeah, let's talk real.
I've got several friends who are minority coaches in the league, and it's like if you get a chance as a head coach and you're a minority coach, if you're an African American coach, you know that might be your only chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we continue. You mentioned Adam Gase, right? What is Adam Gase not?
Yeah.
Right. And you get retread. The good old boy network is still out there in the NFL. Now, times are changing, things are changing. And obviously we have things like the Rooney Rule and everything, but as I've often said on my show at night on The Fan, it's like, I don't want to be hired because I'm Latino.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be hired because I'm good. And the thing about the NFL is there's tons of good minority coaches that need to have that proper spotlight. Again, it's kind of like moving a ship. It's taking some time. Things are changing in the NFL. But let's be honest, Bloom, guys like Anthony Lynn, they know. Guys like Vance Joseph, they know. Like, this might be it for me. This might be my one shot, because it doesn't seem like that good old boy network extends to minority coaches.
Absolutely. And look, Fritz Pollard Alliance, look that up. Look up Fritz Pollard if you don't know about Fritz Pollard.
Right.
The NFL, wasn't the NFL integrated before any other sports? And then it wasn't. But look, the Rooney Rule, I know that's often criticized. The Rooney Rule is not passed unless there is a known ill to remedy. Okay, some of the other things that were bandied about this offseason, giving teams draft picks and incentives to hire minorities. The NFL's not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. And they're not doing it because they're super liberal, bleeding heart, they're doing it because there is a problem, and at least there are some people with a judgment to say it has to be fixed. And there are people who I think have probably ruffled feathers, sees in the kind of organization in the NFL that you're not supposed to ruffle feathers, and that's why we're talking about it. But the good news is we're going to run down some of these lists of potential candidates, and it's not just. You can't say Marvin Lewis is a Rooney Rule interview whenever you're also interviewing Eric Bieniemy, or you're also interviewing Robert Saleh, or Todd Bowles. So you're right that this year, at least the lists and the way teams are going about their time to interview these candidates is showing some progress here.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping for. And we continue on. And let's go ahead and start with Houston
Yeah.
because our guy Casey in the chat room's like, Texans are going to blow this so bad. Well, Deshaun Watson is not happy with Nick Casario.
Right.
Cesario, whatever.
Susudio?
Yeah,
Susudio.
exactly. And listen to Phil Collins. Like, reminds me of the Battle of the Bands with Timmy and the Lords of the Underworld on South Park. That's an old reference. But yeah, okay. Houston, Romeo Crennel was the interim, and well, he's not going to get the job. And Deshaun Watson, they were going to consult with the head coach. They should have done it with the GM as well. But it seems like the McNairs are, they ignore their consultants, right? We're going to tie the GM into this as well, Bloom, because they had a 5-person consultant group. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And they recommended whatever the number was. And Casario wasn't on the list.
Yeah.
And the Texans just like hire him. And then Deshaun Watson tweeting out some things never changed. JJ Watt liking that. Like, okay, Texans, how are you going to screw this one up?
Yeah, already they have, right?
Yeah.
Because now lots of rumors about Deshaun Watson might seek a trade. And then you have like Tyrann Mathieu, 7th Ward, pride of the 7th Ward, saying, hey, the Bears, 49ers, Saints, anybody. See, so you have people already talking about, this is already turning into a news and note show and not one necessarily about the coaching changes, but they're intertwined here. Would Miami trade a first and Tua for Watson? Would someone throw out a hypothetical? And I think it's just fun to think about these things. Would Arizona trade Kyler like straight up for Watson at this point? This just shows you where this franchise is up along the rocks. They're not out in the clear sailing area because, as you said, Casario was not on the list. If you hire a search firm, and see, so can we announce that we are starting a search firm? Can we announce that right now?
Yes, we've announced it. It's official.
Yeah, we'll work for I'll do for like $1,000 or something. We're a lot cheaper. The Lammey search firm is going to be very, very cheap to hire. All right. So NFL types, if you're listening, the Lammey search firm. That's your answer. If you want us to give you listen, ignore it, we'll be happy to be part of the process. Yeah, exactly. We can do that for you for a lot cheaper. It's Jack Easterby, right? I mean, let's talk about Littlefinger. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. That undue influence. And see, so we can go back to Matt Millen.
In the room?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, look, players know what goes on. They're not in the dark. So when you see that, and look, Deshaun Watson is the kind of guy I think that would give truly everything he has for his team and his teammates. So for Deshaun Watson to do that just shows you that something's wrong. It's a sign that something's wrong. Not with Deshaun Watson. So yeah, who are they going to hire? I don't know, but the GM hire, again, like you're really just going to, is Josh McDaniels? I don't know. Are you really just going to continue to try to recreate the Patriots way? The only names I've seen officially tied to them are Marvin Lewis. And look, let's do a little side track on that because it's not the only time we're going to bring up Marvin Lewis. That's not crazy.
Right.
It's not crazy to hire Marvin Lewis.
It's a John Fox hire. You know what I mean?
He made the playoffs 7 out of 16 years.
You know what you're getting with Marvin Lewis.
Yeah. And who knows how much the Bengals organization held him back during those 16 years. 7 times he made the playoffs. I mean, that's probably, given what he had to work with, a sign that he's a good head coach. And then Joe Brady also comes up here. I think what you want, how the Texans didn't mess it up, if it is someone like Brady, if it is an innovative offensive mind, someone you can pair up with Deshaun Watson. But now you got to get the bad taste out of your mouth here. And I think it's going to be, while in some ways a sign of where the team is going on the field, the organization, I'm afraid, is hard to have faith in right now.
Yeah, it's very hard to have faith in that organization. So we'll see what they want to do there. By the way, replacing what? They got to replace Anthony Weaver.
Yeah.
Who's out as well.
Right.
And Tracy Smith as special teams. Like, it's
all
everywhere.
the way down.
It's everywhere. It's all the way down. So you got a lot of work to do, and we'll see how they get that done. Let's talk about perhaps the most desirable job, and that's Jacksonville. Jacksonville with that $100 million in cap space. Jacksonville with the number 1 overall pick, which will be Trevor Lawrence. And now they're moving in a different direction, of course, because Doug Marrone was let go because he's Doug Marrone. Now Jacksonville you can make a splash. You can be you can be the belle of the ball, right? You can be that sexy destination for everybody wants to go there. And that's Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But they're there, and they're at the top of the list, Bloom.
And some interesting things going on here too. And all these teams, almost all of them, need GMs. Houston obviously filled theirs. Jacksonville hasn't. Shad Khan saying, "I'm going to have roster control." Now he clarified a little bit to say that means he's going to sign off or know when contracts are proffered to players, which then makes you say, "Wait, he wasn't before?" I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, honestly. See, when Lammey, the search firm, makes enough money that we can own a team, I'll be okay with handing that off to the GM and say, we hired you to trust you. If you want to extend somebody, even though it's our money, that's okay. That's why we hired you. With Jacksonville, the names we have Eric Bieniemy. And again, these cannot, Ray Farmer, speaking of minority candidates, already on the name list, former Browns GM for the GM job, but Raheem Morris. So these aren't, it's not Eric Bieniemy is not a Rooney Rule interview, which you don't need of that, or Raheem Morris, when they're both on the list, and then Robert Saleh, who of course I think just about everybody would want. And also, by the way, Arthur Smith is on every team's list.
Yes.
As
well he should be.
As well he should be.
So should Brian Dable.
Yes, absolutely.
What about this Urban Meyer stuff?
Oh, well, that was, the Meyer was being reported as almost like a done deal, depending on who you listen to, like the numbers and things like that. I wonder, Cecil, if we're watching a little tango through the media of Meyer. We've seen this before with guys that are retired. Bill Cowher even, or John Gruden.
Right. It's a PR thing. Float the name out there, see what kind of action we get.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how I would feel about an Urban Meyer hire. There's all kinds of discussion about college versus pros and things like that. But you want to have alignment with Trevor Lawrence. You want to have alignment with, and then what else is this team building around right now? The other Josh Allen. I mean, they got some decent play out of some of their first rounders this year, the 2 first rounders this year. Caleb Von Chason came on. They have some decisions to make.
Could be a stud if he's healthy.
Exactly. Well, and that's the whole thing, right? Like, how much does this team change with Trevor Lawrence to unlock what Laviska Shenault can do, what DJ Chark can do, James Robinson establishing the run? So, this is, like you said, Cease, there's a lot of chips here for the new head coach to play with. And then we're going to watch for that GM head coach alignment. We're going to hold out Cleveland as a poster child for how to do it. We're doing it. Really. We're saying, Cleveland, this is how you do it. Alignment between the head coach and the GM. So we'll see what they have up their sleeve.
And that alignment that all the best teams have, John Schneider, Pete Carroll always springs to mind. Like, that's you got to get it done that way. You got to get it right. Now, we've talked about Houston. We've talked about Jacksonville. You did bring up Detroit, Bloom. So let's get there. Darrell Bevell is interviewing to stay. Okay, he won't. It's the Lions. They're like the Texans of the NFC. They'll screw it up. And how will they do that? And by the way, do it without Matthew Stafford. For those thinking Stafford's coming back, don't bank on it. Don't plan on it. But let's talk about the Lions now. And everything that they'll be working with a new quarterback. They'll be working with questionable weapons. What's everybody in the wide receiver core like a free agent, right? Marvin Jones is, Kenny Golladay is. All right, you have DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson. Sure. But there's some interesting questions with the Lions.
Yeah, I think there's an easy answer here, Cease. I'm going to use a little bit of time here to shout out my good friend Uriah Zane Hunt via 313 over in Austin, maybe places other than Austin, via 313 Detroit style pizza. You need it. You want it in your life. There's an easy answer here. And Robert Saleh, his name is coming up in multiple jobs. But this is the guy, right? What do you do? See, it's like you open up all the windows, get all that bad smell out, right? Matt Patricia. What you have players talking about what went wrong. Jeffrey Okudah, even the first round draft pick from last year, is talking about how we need transparency, we need trust. Watch Robert Saleh celebrate with his players when they make a play. Listen to them talk about him. Let's go one step further. And again, my friend Clumino, do you know where Robert Saleh's from? Dearborn, Michigan. That's the largest Muslim community in the United States.
Fifth?
Detroit. Yeah, Detroit area. Went to high school in Dearborn. His first job was with Michigan State. You know? How perfect would that be? How much would that invigorate this long-suffering Detroit community who still stands by these Lions? We've had some playoff droughts end this year, Cease. I know Miami's going to be soon. Let's get Detroit on track here. What did this team have, like one playoff win in their entire history or something like that? You wanted a defensive coach. You wanted a coach that the players were going to rally around. Matt Patricia. And it's another team, by the way, don't try to recreate the Patriots. Unless it's Brian Flores. But he's got Chris Greer, so it wasn't like you're trying to just totally recreate the Patriots. But the Patricia Quinn experiment blew up in their face.
Solly can bring Adam Peters with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want that cohesion with your GM and your head coach, bring in Adam Peters.
Yeah, and like you said, Cease, Matthew Stafford probably not going to be back for this team. It's going to be, I think, they've put a lot of investment into the defense. You know, Patricia, this isn't a post-mortem on Patricia. They got all the exact guys they wanted, you know? And what did they make out of it? Nothing. So I think I'm going to use this time to not necessarily talk about possible names. I'm going to talk about the name that I think my good friend and many other Lions fans are, or at least should be, rooting for as the next head coach of the Lions.
That's right. Okay, so Jacksonville, Houston, Detroit. I'm going down the list if you can't tell.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Atlanta and how, they tried to get Raheem Morris. The players tried to win enough to get him going, but now you need a head coach. You need an OC, you need a DC, you need a special teams coordinator, you need a front office guy. Everybody needs to be replaced in Atlanta. And again, Matt Ryan will probably still be there, Bloom. It's different from the Stafford situation because I think Ryan's contract is not as easy to move. So Ryan and a bridge to a younger guy, sure, I could see that. And certainly those assets on offense that you like, and then the needs that you have there defensively, as they still don't have much on the defensive side of the ball. So Atlanta needs everything, Bloom. So let's talk about everything.
And it's all the same names with an exception, right? Joe Brady, Todd Bowles, Robert Saleh, Arthur Smith. And then, of course, they need a GM. And Tom Dimitroff was a great success for a while in Atlanta. And this has run its course. This iteration of the team has run its course. So really we're looking at a ground-up rebuild. Right? A whole new vision, a whole new blueprint. Again, that's why that alignment is going to be so important. So who's the GM going to be? Brad Holmes' name has been thrown out there. Rams connections there. Morocco Brown. But the name, and this is a name I think that is going to be very much Brown, the Colts director of college scouting. Terry Fontenot, part of the Saints organization here. A hot name. And
Broncos want him.
Yeah. GM, and we'll talk a little bit about the Broncos. You got to get us Broncos. See, we haven't had a good Broncos rant in the new year yet. Fontenot apparently would be aligned with Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, you won alignment, and Hackett deserves some of the credit of what has been happening with the Packers. But when you're talking about a franchise reboot, well, I just don't know. I'm not going to say it would be bad, but so this is one piece where we're watching the GM talk, we're watching the head coach talk, and it may well be that when we learn the answer to one, we'll know already the answer to the other.
Yeah, it'll be a flood of information coming through for those Atlanta Falcons. And, well, you mentioned Anthony Lynn, and you talk about an attractive place to go, not only because it's Los Angeles, but also because of Justin Herbert and that new stadium and all the potential therein and the weapons you have. You have great assets on the offensive side of the ball. You have great assets on the defensive side of the ball, Bloom. You just need someone to get you over the hump. And that could be the new coach for the Chargers, whoever that new coach happens to be.
Yeah, and Dable, I know he's connected very tightly to Tom Telesco. I think they went to high school together. Am I remembering that correctly? And that's who you want, right? I mean, if you're a Justin Herbert fan or you're a Chargers fan, you know, this is it. You want this. So, we talk about Deshaun Watson and the Texans. Justin Herbert, you want the head coach to be aligned with Justin Herbert and to unlock that. You've also seen Joe Brady's name tossed out there. That's good. Then, see, what's that meme where the woman like drinks something and she's like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad. If we go through the names on the Chargers list, that's what you get, right? Joe Brady, Brian Dable, that'd be good. Jason Garrett? What? What?
Not good.
Not good. And then Brandon Staley? Wow, that was quick. Brandon Staley is already getting head coach interviews? Well, he's a flexible-minded guy. We're all the way back around to, do you know Sean McVay? Then you're a head coach candidate.
Right.
Matt Eberflus, the Colts defense, you want somebody who's going to unlock everything that Justin Herbert has to offer. Everything's pointing to Brian Dable here, and they've even said that they're going to be patient. And see, that's one of the things, right? It's Thursday of the week after the season, and we don't really have any strong head coach. This is about to be done. The ink's going to dry on the contract. And I think teams also might be waking up to the idea of, if you have to wait to the end of the playoffs to get your guy, wait.
It's fine.
It's okay. It's okay. So, yeah, I think Dable, they may have to wait maybe until the Super Bowl is over. But I think you're going to see Dable here, and that should make people very happy if they're rooting for Justin Herbert.
There's going to be a staring contest for Eric Bieniemy and for Brian Dable. So who's blink? Don't blink. Don't blink. We'll see who that is. The Jets. Where's our man, Matt Batante? He was in the chat room a little bit earlier. Okay, the Jets. With, I guess Sam Darnold? Maybe?
Yeah, right? The number 2 pick.
Yeah, so we'll see what the Jets are going to do in their coaching search now, Bloom.
Yeah, and it's what's Joe Douglas going to want, because this is not one of the situations where you're rebuilding the organization from the ground up. Joe Douglas survives Adam Gase. Doesn't it feel like this is going to be like the sloppy seconds, right? Like what's left over? Oh, I guess I'll take the Jets job. I don't think they're going to get one of these top candidates. Maybe. I guess if you look at it and you see the number of hot names, maybe they'll get an Arthur Smith. Maybe they'll get a Bieniemy. Maybe they'll get a Robert Saleh. And the names connected to them, Smith, these names already. Saleh, Bieniemy, Marvin Lewis. That's the one. And maybe they would be too hasty and incorrect, because that's the one that would make Jets fans go, great.
Right.
Here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Again, but this is not a Rooney Rule interview if you're already hiring Eric Bieniemy and Robert. I'm hiring, and Freudian slip there, interviewing. So we'll see. But like you said, Cecil, there's big decisions to be made. And how do you do this, right? Do you go in and you say, we're moving on from Darnold. We're going to find the best trade partner we can, and we're going to take a quarterback. And it isn't necessarily automatically Justin Fields, even though, he put on a show against Clemson. It could be Zach Wilson. Or do you say to your head coach, well, what are you thinking in the interview? Well, what are you thinking? Tell me what you think about Sam Darnold. Tell me what you think about these quarterbacks. Tell me what you think about how to build this team. Lots of unknowns here. Unfortunately, Jets fans, like Texans fans, are probably fearing the worst. But at least Jason Garrett hasn't been connected to them yet.
Yeah, not yet. Oh, be fearful, Jets. Be fearful. And we'll see what's going on. And the GM coach thing, the way that I put it for Denver, Bloom, is, and they need 2 people, because you're replacing Matt Russell as well. This was a promotion demotion for John Elway. I'd said even on this show in September, like, Fangio's safe, Elway's not. And that's what happened this year. Was it Josh Allen that actually got this done? Because it was the Bills game and that loss and that embarrassment that your guy, he was right in your backyard at Wyoming up at Laramie, and you didn't draft him. That's when conversations got more real in terms of, what are you going to do, John? Because you're not going to be a GM anymore, or whatever. John made the decision himself. Sure. We totally believe you. I totally believe that. That's nothing wrong there. Now, you have Joe Ellis. Yeah, again, Game of Thrones. So you had Joe Ellis who loves Vic Fangio. So Fangio's safe, but should he be? He's not a good head coach. Doesn't know how to run timeouts. I can't say the team loves him. I can't say that they hate him, but there isn't any sort of like Wade Phillips, like stick up for my guy, John Fox, love this guy. There's none of that feel around Vic Fangio. Could be totally wrong, but that's just what I'm telling you is my observations. Like, does he deserve the third year? Vance Joseph got ran out of town. He had a better record than Vic Fangio. And they wanted to get rid of EJ after 1 year, but they didn't for their own reasons, which I won't talk about right now. But okay, so if you're looking at that situation, if I'm the GM and whoever that is, right? Champ Kelly, Adam Peters, I know they're interviewing 4 or 5 guys. I'm actually interviewing Fangio because Fangio is the only one that might be around after next year. John Elway's gone after next year. Joe Ellis is gone after next year. You're taking over a team with Drew Lock, who Solomon Wilcots told me on Monday was the 35th ranked quarterback in PFF. Okay, so you have your apologists locally. So it's fine. Just give him time. What, a millennia? Like this, we're not going to do that. So a new GM comes in. His biggest supporter was John Elway. John Elway's not there anymore. So this is bad news for Drew Lock. Do they go trade for Stafford? Do they add in Andy Dalton? There will be competition in the quarterback room next year. They're not just going to hand the job to Lock again because he didn't deserve that. He didn't earn that. Well, he didn't earn it last year either, and they still did it because they wanted to see what he could do, and it wasn't much. So anyway, as you notice, Bloom, my energy is so off today.
Yeah.
It's just very off. Well, that's what the Broncos in this situation will do to you.
Yeah, and I feel for you, Cease. I feel for all the Broncos fans, too, because what this team needs right now is one of those bottom-up rebuilds. Because like the Patriots, what is the Broncos' identity right now? You know?
They want it to be defense, but the defense stinks.
Right! It's not Miller and Chubb. Remember they got Bradley Chubb. Oh, my God, Miller and Chubb. And I don't even know what this team's identity is right now. I don't even know. I mean, wide receivers and speed, I guess, on offense, but they don't have the quarterback to unlock all of that. They don't have the offensive mind to unlock all of that. And unfortunately, I think because of the nature of the Broncos fan base, something like trading for Matthew Stafford or even Andy Dalton, remember Joe Flacco? Some sort of stopgap move to keep you in the teens of the draft or, whatever, 6-7 win range and not moving forward with a new vision for the team is what you're looking at. And like you said, a lot of it comes down to Vic Fangio because, he's the most powerful person in the organization, at this point.
Fangio's got a lot of power. A lot of power. Again, what I said on the air is I said Fangio outplayed Elway because there's politics all over the NFL. That's all it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you can play the game or you cannot play the game. Fangio outplayed the king of the Mile High City. Mm-hmm. Think about that.
And I want to recommend to people again to look up, I forget who it is that wrote it now, the Jack Easterby piece, I think it was on SI.com, just to get a picture for the Texans. And it isn't every organization, but certainly to know this sometimes is the dynamic that goes on behind these decisions that we see. You mentioned Champ Kelly's name's interesting because he has had that experience with Fangio.
Yes, and he would Chicago. Keep most of the scouts in place, and then he'd survive the next owner. There's going to be an ownership change.
So it's hard to say, Cease, because all these things are going to happen in like dribs and drabs instead of all at once, like burn it down to the ground and rebuild it. Which unfortunately, I think it'd be like if your car you needed something broke in your car and you were trying to fix it while you were still driving, and that doesn't usually work.
But you're too prideful to take it to the shop, and you didn't know how to fix it. Like Joe Ellis is a great businessman and a great man. Like I like Joe. He likes me kind of. But it's like, do you know football? You fired Mike Shanahan to hire Josh McDaniels. You would not let John Elway hire Mike Shanahan back. And that's when they hired Vance Joseph. People forget about that. John Elway had discussions with Mike, who hadn't been in the building in 20 years, And Joe Ellis told him no. That deal also might have included Kyle. That would have included Kirk Cousins. Cousins was waiting for the Broncos to hire Mike Shanahan so he would play for Mike Shanahan again. You want all the secrets? You want all the backstory? Like, Kirk Cousins was waiting for Mike Shanahan to be his coach again. And when that didn't come to fruition, Kirk Cousins wasn't going to come to Denver because he knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's pride, and it's very sad. You know, I don't think Elway's legacy is going to be like tarnished by this. People will forget it. They'll remember the Super Bowls. They'll remember this one's for John, and they'll remember this one's for Pat, and they'll remember Super Bowl 50. Like, they'll remember those things, but it's just sad that grown men would put this team in that position. And here we are.
Yeah, Cease, you know, it's like you said, pride over competent leadership. You know, last thing, a little chaser. We got. I feel like we should mention that Carolina's also looking for a GM, and lots of names, like you said, long list
Adam
of names.
Peters.
Yeah, it's same names, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Ireland, his name comes up. Jerry Reese. So there's some names you might recognize. Marty Herney, and this is that incremental change. You know, they bring in Matt Rule. It was a bit strange that they kept Marty Herney. It wasn't like Marty Herney was cruising in on some recent successes or anything. I guess Matt Rule, the Coach King, is probably going to have some say. We'll see. Carolina has big decisions to make about quarterback, GM, big decisions. That's the thing. You know, we watch the games on the field, but the wheels are always turning. Things are being put in place that ripple for years to come. And it's always interesting, and sometimes, I'm sorry for you and a lot of people around Denver, sometimes frustrating, even infuriating.
Yeah, well, you think the egos on the field are one thing. Get to the egos at the top of that building, and you'll see what happens there. Okay, we'll be there for you when all these hires go down. And super quick, Bloom, have we ever seen a year where this many GMs have been open? It's very,
I don't
very
think so.
odd.
No, because last year the talk was that the GMs all survived the head coaches, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That and there was some other talk, I can't remember who it was on Twitter talking about this, is that the GMs have the luxury of putting their failures on the coaches. And the coaches don't get to do that in the opposite direction. So I do think we saw some teams figure out that it was a hit about hitting a reboot from the beginning. And then again, we'll watch teams like the Jets, like the Texans that haven't really done that. I know the Texans hired a new GM, but come on. There's a reason that, what did Sean Watson say? More of the same, something like that. So, you know, we'll check in a few years and see how these teams are doing.
Who did the Titans get rid of after they won a playoff game? Or why is my memory
Malarkey?
Yeah. Is there any malarkey coming up for Matt Nagy? Like, hey, you made the playoffs.
There should be, and Ryan Pace.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right?
Is that coming as well? Or are we going to have to do another coaching carousel show? Like, hey, Chicago got rid of everybody because it got bounced in the wild card.
I mean, that's what should happen. I think that the alternative is what, like the Blake Bortles, you know, zombified team that everybody knows can't really do anything, and then let's just put off the changes that need to be made. Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy had their shot, and this is where it led them. So I think that that's what should happen, and hopefully it'll be a test for the the heads of the organization to understand that just because you made the playoffs, because there's 7 teams in the playoffs this year and Arizona collapsed in the second half of the year, doesn't mean that these guys deserve to keep their job.
Did you shave?
Yeah, everything, just sometime. I mean, looks a little, new year.
New year, new you. Okay. I was like, something's amiss here with Sigmund. It's not your hat. I was like, oh, you shaved. That's what it is. You shaved.
I want to get an interview or something. I don't know. One of these jobs.
Interview for one of these jobs. And I've said it. I've made Nick Ferguson very upset. Very upset. Because I said, when Peyton buys a team, I'm asking him for a job.
Yeah.
Like, sorry. Like, I will never have that opportunity again to have an NFL owner that actually likes me and respects my opinion. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to ask him for a job. And no, it wouldn't be high up or anything like that. But yes, I will ask Peyton Manning for a job.
See, so on that note, can I barge in and say something here?
Sure.
Because I've lived in New Orleans long enough now. We people in New Orleans love us some New Orleans. right now we're working on our big plan to turn our house. There's not going to be Mardi Gras parades this year. Or in so much as there are, they're going to be the ones where they decorate everything and you get in your car and drive past it. Not decorate, but they have like the things you come to expect. So people are turning their houses into the floats. I might have mentioned this once before, but
I like this. Yeah,
we're gonna participate in that. I won't ruin anything of the surprise of what our float will be. But I want to say this: New Orleans, Southeast Louisiana, 3 of the 15 Hall of Fame semifinalists. Peyton Manning, of course, you might have seen during Mardi Gras parade, hanging out down by the Garden District. We'll see where's Arch going to go? Have they even talked about that yet? Alan Faneca and Reggie Wayne.
Very good.
All New Orleans. And Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith from, and I might say this wrong, Amity. Your Hammond, little North Shore action there. So, yeah, New Orleans representing, and the Saints are playing this weekend.
So a person from New Orleans is a New Orleanser?
New Orleanian.
New Orleanian? Or
New Orleanian.
New Orleanian. Okay. All right. That's right. Okay, everybody. That's a wrap for today's show. Again, we'll be back. We've got plenty of shows planned for you.
Yeah.
WNBC.
Yeah.
So we will get those shows out to you. So we're not going anywhere. We're the Audible. And, that's what we do. So happy to do it. Glad to do it. And be seeing everybody soon. Enjoy Wild Card Weekend. Watch out for these coaching changes, news and notes shows, opinions, and inside information. That's what you get right here. It is the Audible. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. Everyone, thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.